This is something that you won't see on any other YouTube channel so far. Nobody has been dumb enough to cut into their harness, because this is quite literally the artery, the most vital set of cables in your entire bike. How's it going, guys? Mike here, and today we're here with my bike, and we're actually at my job. So we're in my classroom right now. For those of you that don't know, I'm a teacher, and as you can see, I run the makerspace, and it's the perfect place to be with your Super 73, especially when it comes time to clean up the wiring. So if you look right there, you can see I got all the guts out right now. So we're gonna take a look at how I set this up so you guys can do it yourself. So first, let's take a look at what we actually have. So here we have a 3-tier LED bar setup. The components, the actual hardware for it, was bought independently. This was bought on eBay. This is for the Honda Grom. These brackets here were bought online. It took me a while to find the right size, but as you can see, it fits on pretty well. These screws, all of them were purchased individually. You see I needed washers for this one because it's different. But up here, we have this beautiful button set. This is CNC aluminum. I made the mistake of getting, you see that's called a momentary switch. And then this here is called a latching switch. So it stays down. This is 2 latching and 2 momentary. And right now I don't have any use for the 2 momentaries, but that will change. But as you can see, the wires come down off of there, and then they go to the whole setup. Right now I just have all the wires bunched up in that little container. That's going to change. You'll see what we do with that instead. These 2 wires are the main power wires, which stream back here into this rat's nest. But this is them right there. And then you see it goes down into a barrel connector, which connects to our power source. This is a very large power source, as you can tell. It is from Talent Cell, so it's a seriously big battery. It's about $100. Turn it on. You see it has space for a USB. This is power in, this is power out. Now that we have power going to it, I can turn on the lights for you. There's one. Turn that off, there's the other, and then there's all 3. So I did it like that just in case, I want to have on some light but not blind anybody. And then if I need to point at the ground, these lights point more downward. Going back here, we get to all of these wires, alright? So these wires here on the yellow wires, those are the turn signals, and then these are the power for our LED lights back here. Alright, these LED lights work as turn signals, as you can see when I press this button over here. So these are more momentary latches purchased on Amazon. The wire comes down through and goes through that little hole. But what you might notice is that right there. So this was a crash that I had recently, and it ended up severing a part of the LED. If you look on this side, this one came close, but it works really well. It is RGB, and you can put it on different modes and whatnot. So, very nice. Let's look at what these lights are. So these are the LED daytime running lights. These are the 45 centimeter versions, and what it comes with is the 2 strips, a controller, and you get all the wiring. There is a wiring diagram, but it's really I don't know, it's not that bad, but it doesn't show you for a specific setup like this. What you'll need is a barrel connector to hook it up to something. In my case, I have it, this was done by a friend of mine, Dr. Logic. Shout out to Logic. As you see, we have a barrel connector where the power comes in, and it just plugs in right there. And we have it actually on a 12 volt to 5 volt step down. So instead of using 12 volts, it uses only 5 volts from USB. I'm sure that was kind of confusing for some of you guys. All you got to know is that when you purchase this kit, it will be very much ready for you, but you will have to solder at least 2 cables for power. If you plan on using the turn signals, then you'll need 2 buttons, and you'll need to solder those in as well. I can go into more detail for you guys in another video, but the plan for today is we need to replace one of the LEDs. So one of these strips, you see I just have it zip tied on there, as well as double-sided Gorilla tape is holding it in. I'm going to replace this. I'm going to cut it right here, and then we're going to relocate this strip right underneath, so that way we have some underglow as well. That'll be really cool. I'm also going to try to clean up this wiring here, because this was just my first shot at it. It worked and then I left it. We're going to rewire that, and we're going to make it so that things are unpluggable, which is great. So first step is going to be to unscrew the headlight, take that off. We're going to undo this whole nest of wires and see how that looks. Trim up cables, make sure that they're all set. And then last but not least, the horn. The horn does not work. I replaced the horn button, which was broken, but now it still doesn't work. Alright, so we got all of the fender related pieces cleaned off. They're just drying here in the sinks now. I got this is the 3D printed part from Throwback Bikes, and just a quick note about this is that they have a lifetime warranty on this particular piece, because some people say that through, you know, what they claim regular use, that it can snap, and I just gotta say, I've abused this thing and it has not taken any damage whatsoever. I've gotten into 3 pretty serious accidents that have led to a lot of damage on the bike, and that thing is still holding up. So yeah, we got some work to do. I got a class coming in right now, so I'm gonna get ready to teach, but after that we're gonna do some more electrical work. Alright, so we now have all of the wires, well, not all of them, most of them are labeled. This is the whole turn signal and LED strip setup. This is the headlight setup. Right now I have a ton of extra wire on here, so I'm just going to go in and splice this together, make it a little bit neater. So right now we are using some double-sided clear Gorilla tape. This is the heavy-duty outdoor, and all I'm doing is I'm putting some over here, and then there's a little break for where the Super 73 has this little hole right there. So if you notice, it does stick out, and when we have the LED strip over this part, when we have the double-sided tape, it makes up for that difference there, and you can see that in action on this side. That's where the hole is, and there's barely any bump. So we are now getting ready to solder. I have my light here replaced, and then we relocated the other strip down here, and it actually goes all the way down there. We'll see how that actually looks. I don't really know what to expect. One thing that is something to note is that these wires are so thin. I don't know what gauge these are, but what I'm going to be splicing them with is 22 gauge solid core wire. Bruh. It's going to be real easy to wrap those copper wires around here. This is the other wire. I just dropped that, but you see, look at how thin these wires are. Now if you look really closely, you'll see that these are actually smaller than the 2220 gauge. If I try to strip it with the 2220, it actually will just... Oh, shit, it worked. Last time I did it, it didn't work. So We're gonna do it from here. Squeeze it. See? That happens. Can't even see it. So it doesn't actually strip it, it just eats a little bit of the insulator. That's not what we want. So what I've been doing is I've been going in using just this freehand part, just snipping in there, twisting it around, and very carefully. So this is the kind of finesse that goes in here. This is the hard part. This is the part that is not for the faint of hearted. But look at that. See? With practice, you can get it pretty good. Alright, so it has been like 30 minutes. It's dark outside now. But what I've done here is I've spliced the cables pretty well. And now the bottom light is attached to this light. So they are one and the same. Next, we need to hook this up to the controller again. Not the bike controller, but the LED controller. And then once we have that, we are ready to test it again. Oh man, that took so long, but we finally got it. And we're gonna turn it on for the first time. Make sure we get a good view. 3, 2, 1. Now, the test is when I do the left turn signal, or excuse me, the right turn signal, it works fine. But then when I do the left one, we see that, which isn't bad. It's not perfect, but I could probably splice the other turn signal into here as well, but I'm not really sure how that would work. So we're just gonna leave it like that for now. And yeah, look, you can see that come through all the way down there. Fantastic. So the time is 6:21, and we started this at about 3 o'clock, and man, I am just absolutely baffled at how much work was actually needed here. Some of the solders that I did actually came undone, and I noticed as I was jamming it all in here just to test it that that light down there didn't turn on anymore, and for some reason this one was just flickering. So clearly there was something wrong with the splicing here. I checked it, and sure enough I had to resolder that. Now we're here with the headlights, soldering on a new higher gauge barrel connector. This is one thing. I still haven't gone in there for the horn because the horn doesn't work, but you know, I think I have to call it quits because I am just getting to the point now where I'm just getting frustrated at myself. Stripping wires and stuff like that was just too much, and I haven't eaten very much at all today. So I need to go home and take another break. It is now the next morning. It is about 9:30. We just got in, and the first thing that I want to do is take a look at our headlight setup. So I drew out a little diagram so you guys can hopefully better understand what's going on here. But as you can see, this is what the wires look like. There's a couple of splices. There's a couple of points where the wires aren't necessarily insulated, but this is going into the button panel, as you can see there. Over here I have 2 extra buttons, blue and black. Those aren't used for anything. Those are the momentaries that I had mentioned before. But what's happening here is we have our 3 tier LEDs, and what I did was I grouped these 2 here together. So this and this, these positives immediately come into each other, and then their negatives also come in. The negative, all 3 of them connect. The positive is what really matters, because now this switch here is what controls the power for these two. So if I flip the switch, it allows the electricity to come in to these two only, but then I have to flip this switch to allow this one to turn on. We connect both of the negatives, the output, and then this goes to a barrel connector, which will eventually plug into our battery. Okay, so it's not the most simple thing. This is obviously not a very professional diagram, but in the end, it is quite simple. I do have a lot of extra cable here, and going in to clean this up is not really something that I want to do. I would have to connect this here, and yeah, I think I'm just going to leave it how it is, because having this much extra cable isn't terrible. I can hide it, and yeah, it's just going to be so much more of a pain to have to rewire this whole thing. So for now, the headlight, we're going to leave it. We're going to solder the barrel connector back on so we can plug this back in, toss it back onto the bike, and then we should be good to go. So this right here is heat shrink. Oh. Okay, sorry about that. We got called to action there. Always on the job. But as I was mentioning, this here is heat shrink tubing. We're gonna slide it over our cable, and when we are done soldering, we just slide it back over and it will insulate our connector. Now, mind you, I am no expert here, but something that I've learned through this process is that there is no reason why I was mixing solid core wires with whatever you call these wires. I definitely regret doing that. I wish that I didn't. These are so much easier to string together, just like this. You see, you just get the ends, wrap them up, take these ends, wrap them up, and from here we solder. Very simple, very strong. When you have the individual strands, the solder actually goes into the wires a lot better, and you get a stronger connection. I didn't feel like moving my exhaust fan over here, my fume extractor, so really whenever I do this without a fume extractor, you don't want to breathe in lead smoke, so all I do is I just blow out as I'm doing it. So all you do is you rest your iron on the component for a second. We warm up the wires. If you put your finger right here, you'll feel the insulator actually start warming up. So we just warm it up there, and that'll allow the solder to get deeper in there. We get both sides, and now that it's warm, we can just tin the iron a little bit, get some solder on there, and then from here we just go in and we melt our solder right in there. And there we go. That has been soldered. It is now in there. This is a strong connection. It's not the neatest connection I've ever made, but it works. Oh, it does fit. Perfect. Yes, it does fit. There you go. Now, with the lighter, I'll heat that up. It'll shrink over, and it'll keep my tubes and my wires connected. All right, barrel connector is on there. I'm gonna plug it to my power source. And then works perfectly. Amazing. Now, the last task is to fix the horn, and that is the most challenging task. So I need to wait until I have more than an hour or so. So if we zoom in on the bracket, you see all that scratching and stuff? That comes from this thing vibrating and moving around and scratching it like that. Not only does that scratch off the coating, which makes you susceptible to rust, but it also does eat away at the overall hole. So eventually these things might need to be replaced. I should have cleaned them as well. They're kind of dirty, as you can see. There she is. Nice and tight on there. We got thread locker holding her in, and as you see, I have the wires coming up through here. Pro tip, see how these go through here? Don't stuff your other wires, meaning all of these. Do not stuff them through here, because if you turn your bike really hard, there's a chance that they'll get pinched. This part right here is what was responsible, or actually the bottom one, I think. No, yeah, that one. That was what was responsible for severing these cables in here during my last, or one of my crashes. So, here we are. This is something that you won't see on any other YouTube channel so far. Nobody has been dumb enough to cut into their harness, because this is quite literally the artery, the most vital set of cables in your entire bike. And as you can see here, I had to repair some wires. Specifically, these 3 wires here, I had to splice in extra wire just because they got so badly damaged. And I saw that there was a couple of other wires in here that didn't look perfect. And I think that could be why the horn isn't working. I need to really inspect this and make sure before I go in and do some repairs. Alright, so we are back here at home base, and we're over here at the soldering station because we are seriously struggling here with the horn. So as you can see here, we have the very tiny switch that is inside the Super 73 stock horn. As you can see, there are 6 pins on this. So what that tells you is that this is a relay of some sort. Now, I was very confused when I tore open the horn and I find 3 wires in here. I was very confused by that. I was expecting it to be just a positive and a negative, and we activate the horn. But that was not the case. So, that means that we need to figure out how this thing works, what it is, how we can replicate it, and there might be a way for me to use this tiny little piece and stick it somewhere in the circuit in order to make it work with my buttons. So the fancy term for what we're doing here is technically reverse engineering, but that gives me too much credit for actually knowing what I'm doing. So we keep getting to an impasse as far as button, and I'm kind of tempted to believe that it's not the button anymore. So we're going to do something that could be kind of stupid, and I'm just going to directly hook up this to a 12 volt power source. I don't know if it takes 12 volts. I could instantly fry this. I could short the battery. Don't do this at home. This could be really stupid. So that's on. So let's do power out. No fire yet, no fire yet. Oh, okay. So the horn does work. Okay. Alright, my heart is pounding. Alright, so we know that the horn works. Wow, that was dangerous. I don't know. But it is just positive to negative as far as I'm concerned here. So I might as well just hook this up to my light source system at this point. So now what I'm doing is I'm hooking up our battery power to a breadboard, a solderable breadboard, and right now this is going to our headlights, and we made it so that now our headlight is detachable. So we can pop this out, take out the circuitry, leave the headlight on the bike. That's great. Here, what we're doing is we are saying forget all the wiring that goes for the bike itself. We are just going to bypass that and hook up our horn ourselves. So I'm going to find a spot on the bike that this can fit that's a little closer to our bag here, and we're going to mount the horn. We're going to get our horn working. Here is our solderable breadboard, and as you can see, I have the power input. It goes to the negative side and then the positive side, and then we have just wires that we can pull straight off of here to power whatever we need to. This box here is actually a patch kit box that I just broke right down here and down here, and this actually works really well as a project box. So you see, I close that up, and now we have the wires sticking out. What we have here is our headlights, and then what we have here is our horn, and then this goes to our power. And I'm just gonna double check everything, make sure that nothing looks like it's gonna short. Our power out. Turn that on. You see the headlights came on, and we have horn. But if you look, the lights actually dim. Okay. Interesting. So everything that we've done here on the bike so far as this little project box, it's all gone great. It's all been working really well. The problem with the horn affecting the lights, it's not that big of a deal for me. But what is becoming a big deal now is the fact that I have this 5-volt downstep. So it's actually a barrel connector connected, but instead of going in from barrel into the whole barrel system here, I have it going from barrel to USB, so that way it only takes 5 volts instead of 12. Well, we're going to be hooking this directly up to our 12-volt circuit, so that way we have our USB port free, and we have everything running off of here. So that means that in total, we will have the horn, the front headlights, and the rear tail lights running off of this power system. I know that this project box is just going to be temporary, so really I don't care how ugly it looks. We're actually just going to pop it out of here, and as you can see, everything has been going well with it. I'm going to move this battery out of the way, and you can tell that we have this as our power input, so this end goes into the battery, and both positive and negative go to their respective rails. So the power goes through here negative, through here positive, and you can see the positive wires go out to their specific things. So this goes to the headlights, and then this one can go to the what's the other thing that we have? The horn. What we do need now, as you can see, this is what was between the tail lights, you know, the RGB lights, not just the brake lights. These were in between. USB went into the brick right here, and this brought it from 12 volts down to 5 volts. I don't think that that's necessary. So what we're going to be doing, I'm going to be cutting this out of the equation, and we're going to be taking this right here. This is a male end. We're going to take this male end and we're going to solder it onto here in the same fashion. From there, we're just going to test it out. We're going to plug it in, see how it looks. We're going to see if we can tell a difference between the 5 volts and the 12 volts. finished up that really quick soldering job, so we were able to cut this out of the equation. Here we go. Turn on the bike. Once we turn on this battery, she comes to life. So we got the one light, we got the high beams. I can do just the low light. You've seen that already. We also have our turn signals. So that all works totally fine, straight off of that one 12-volt power system. No step downs or anything, so that actually leaves me open. So this allows me to have a USB cable, which in this case I will be using for plugging in both of these speakers here. Because these little guys here, while they do sound amazing, their battery life is absolutely atrocious, especially in the cold. So this is as complete as the bike is actually going to be for now. We have everything running off of that one power source, which means that as we move into the next phase of this bike project, which is changing out the controller and changing out and upgrading the battery, we're going to be able to plug everything into one power source, so that way it's all running off of one single 12-volt power source. And then from there we're going to start adding the Arduino, and we're going to have some cool functionality. I got all kinds of different things that I can add to the Arduino. So once I have a relay, or I guess a MOSFET is what I need to use, something that can control a 12-volt circuit but only require 3.3 volts, I think it is. That's what the Arduino uses. I don't know, I got a lot to learn. So thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking around for all this. I hope you guys check out my Instagram and my other ride videos, because there's plenty more on the way. I will see you guys soon in the next project video. Thanks for subscribing.